Basic Brewing Radio is sponsored in part by the American Homebrewers Association. The American Homebrewers Association invites you to celebrate the 24th annual Learn to Homebrew Day on Saturday, November 5th. Visit homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing to download the official recipe for a small batch hoppy amber ale. Find a homebrew supply shop and dust off your homebrewing skills with how-to videos. Plus, you'll get a promo code for $5 off an annual American Homebrewers Association membership when you make a pledge to participate in Learn to Homebrew Day. That's homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing to get $5 off when you make the Big Brew Pledge by November 8th, 2022. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, October 6th, 2022. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Steve Wilkes and I taste some tinctures that you might not think of putting into a dark beer. But we did. Go to basicbrewing.com. You can find archives of our audio and video shows. If you go to basicbrewingshop.com, you can find our DVDs and our brewers' logbooks. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Basic Brewing, and find our show page on Facebook as well. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Financial supporters have already seen the video episode I'm planning to release to the public this Friday. It's the one about Steve's mead that he made with I-22 Capri from Imperial Organic Yeast. That's the new hybrid strain from Imperial. I sent a bottle of that to the folks at Imperial, and they liked it. Well, I did too. This episode is the third of four that we shot on that one day. We did get pretty silly at times, and I'm looking forward to editing the fourth show. That one was also a mead. It was a split batch of mead that I made with delicious local honey and a couple of tinctures. I brewed the no barley Belgian wit that Matt Giovanisi and I formulated on the last show, the last audio show. I found a 5-month-old package of Imperial Whiteout because I wanted the yeast to be a little stressed to get some interesting flavors. The beer wasn't bubbling before bedtime, but it was very happy the next morning, and the relatively old yeast seemed to have no problem with the fermentation. I'm planning to bottle the beer this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to tasting it. Listener Zach from Virginia wrote in after hearing the episode about the Belgian wit beer and sent a recipe from Zymergy of a wit beer brewed with Amarillo hops, like Matt and I came up with. It was a medal winner from Thomas Kinzer of Milwaukee, Oregon. Zach says, I just listened to your excellent episode about Belgian wit recipe development. That was a blast from the past for me. A couple of years ago, I brewed a wit based on the attached recipe I saw in the September-October 2018 issue of Zymergy called Brunchmaster 2000. Zach says, I modified the recipe at the time to include citrus zest, as you did, based on recommendations from Brewing Classic Styles, and ultimately settled on a mix of tangerine and orange. Zach says, according to my recipe development notes, I also toyed with the idea of using Bravo hops, although they're very high in alpha acid, based on a certain brewing podcast's conclusion from a hop sampler series that they have pronounced orange character. Zach doesn't say how the recipe turned out, but I bet it was tasty. While we're in the mailbag, listener Daniel from Australia writes with a cider update in his neck of the woods. You know, it's spring down there, so cider making season was a while back. Daniel says, we couldn't use the same trees as last year because the owners cut them down to subdivide the block. Fortunately, friends of ours bought a house that just happens to have an enormous apple tree in the backyard. We tasted the fruit and found them to be deliciously tart and seemed to have a decent amount of sweetness to go along with it. So we picked them, juiced them, not juiced them. He's not from New York. Hey, we juiced them. Pressed the remaining pulp and fermented with some DAP and USO5. We finished with about 60 liters after we returned about 20 liters of finished cider to our friends. Daniel says the final product is a beautiful copper color, a lovely apple nose. In the mouth, it's light but not thin, has some bracing acidity with a finishing dryness. A lingering tart apple flavor rounds things out. I can't read today. That sounds delicious. Daniel's neighbors are lucky to have someone who will come pick their apples and make some delicious cider. Speaking of cider, and you know I was going in this direction, be on the lookout for A40GF bubbles from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Organic Yeast. Steve and I are very excited about the re-release of bubbles. Eben is going to send us some, he says. We've been talking about making some cider and maybe some sizer. It's been a while since I've played with ciders and sizers. Bubbles is gluten-free, which is why it's A40GF. Bubbles is a traditional cider strain, beautiful for fruit juice-based fermentations. The clean profile of the yeast, especially when used at the lower end of the temperature range, allows the nuances of the fruit to be prominent in the finished beverage. And with a pitch rate of 200 billion cells per easy-to-open package, you know I like to say my stir plate is dusty because I don't use it anymore to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. And my airlocks are usually bubbling before bedtime. Look for A40GF bubbles from Imperial Organic Yeast at your local homebrew store. And check out all the excellent strains available from Imperial at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. One more thing. I've already started getting stories in from y'all for the annual disaster show, which we always record at the end of the year. So don't forget to write those up and share them with us. Okay, I hear from listeners all the time that they like the sampler shows with Steve, and I do too. Obviously. This week, we tasted dark beer, and I challenged Steve to come up with a selection of tinctures for us to play with. Steve Wilkes, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks, James.
We just had a lovely Thai lunch. I had the curry chicken, the green curry chicken.
I had the duck fried rice.
Well, that duck looks like he knows how to fry some rice.
He did.
So what better to wash it down than some nice brown beers with some tinctures?
Yeah.
And so I've set you to the task, and we're over here at your temporary housing, but I've set you the task to come up with some tinctures this time, and you went overboard. You made 5.
Well, you know, the universe is a big place. I could have made 50. I could have made 100. There's so many flavors to explore.
But you said that you had a particular goal in these tinctures. What was your goal?
Okay. So when we first talked about this, of course, and you said, I'm going to do a dark beer. So I'm not sure if this is technically a stout or what it is, but a dark beer. And to do as a follow-on tincture show from our previous tincture shows, which have always been just light pale ales, kind of nondescript pale ales. So, and you had asked me to come up with some tinctures. And I thought at first I was, of course, like thinking chocolate and cherry and all that. And after a little reflection, I thought, well, wait a minute. Everybody knows that chocolate's good in a stout.
Coffee's good.
Coffee's good. Chili peppers are good.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows about that and does that. So I set myself to the task of thinking of what are some flavors that are challenging or unusual. And I'll go into what they are in a second. But again, back to my parameter, I thought about this for a few days too. What are some flavors that in my mind's taste bud might go well in a dark, caramelly, roasty beer? And so I chose 5. I narrowed it down to 5. So I chose hawthorn berry.
Now, what is a hawthorn berry?
It's the berry of a hawthorn.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Science.
Honestly, I have to plead ignorance. I don't know. It's clearly the fruit from a hawthorn tree. And it does have some culinary and medicinal uses. I looked all of these up a little bit, and I screwed up and didn't print anything out, but that's okay. But hawthorn berry is used actually to control blood pressure.
Oh,
so you can make a tea with it, and you can drink it as a kind of home remedy or home blood pressure medication. And actually, when I started running across it, I thought, holy moly, I got to be careful here because I'm a heart patient.
right.
And I thought, I don't want to drink something that's going to like send me into a... So, and then I went, well, wait a minute. You're going to have like 4 drops in half a beer. Let's not get too excited. Anyway, so hawthorn berry is the first flavor. I have no idea. I should preface all of these in saying we might not like any of these. They might all be terrible. And I'm hoping that 1 or 2 will be really good, and we'll see. So hawthorn berry is beer number 1. The second flavor that we're going to use is rose hips.
Mm.
The third flavor that we'll use is juniper berry. The fourth flavor is hibiscus, which I didn't know this, but we grow rose of Sharon's around here. It's a flowering shrub. Hibiscus is a rose of Sharon.
Huh.
Now I don't know if it's the same variety that we see in gardens and yards, but when I looked it up, that was new to me.
Or if you're in the grapes of wrath, it's Rose of Sharon.
That's right. And the final flavor the final tincture that I made is cracked black pepper.
Oh.
So somehow when I was thinking about this, all of these flavors, except for the hawthorn berry, that's the sleeper here. I know what these other 4 taste like is just on their own. I don't know what hawthorn berry tastes like. I don't know what hawthorn berry tincture tastes like, but we're going to find out.
Now, I should talk about the beer.
Yeah.
Now, I think we have done another dark tincture sampler.
I think we did too.
One, but most of them have been light colored. Yeah. So this one I used, when we went to HomebrewCon, we brought back a bunch of free stuff.
Yeah.
And we raided the breeze table.
Right.
They had a bunch of little 4-ounce packages of malts and grains. So I used one of those into 5 quarts of water at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 4.7 liters at 65 C. I crushed 4 ounces or 113 grams of Brice dark chocolate malt, and that's at 430 SRM. So pretty dark. I steeped that at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C for 30 minutes, and I didn't have to, I'm not mashing anything. I'm not trying to convert anything. That's just a control.
Right.
So I steeped that for 30 minutes, and I took the grains out, and into that wort I put 1 pound or 450 grams of Pilsen light dry malt extract. I boiled that for 30 minutes, and at the beginning of that 30-minute boil, I put 5 grams of Kent Goldings at 5% alpha acid. And then I chilled and pitched into my fermenter 3 grams of Safale USO5. The original gravity was 1057. The final gravity 1011 for an ABV of 6.0%, and this yielded 7 bottles. And usually the gravity is higher, but for this one, I instead of adding, because I was going to boil for 30 minutes, I added 5 quarts instead of the usual 3 quarts. And so it just wound up that it was a lower. I got 7 bottles as opposed to the 6 I usually get, and the final beer was smaller, which is good. We've got 5 cups here in front of us, and we've got little pipettes to measure and to dose the tinctures. So, can I smell the hawthorn berry here? Ooh, it's almost It doesn't smell fruity.
No.
It smells kind of like pipe tobacco.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little leathery. When I strained them and strained the fruit away from the vodka, I thought it smelled savory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this reminds me. My dad used to smoke Carter Hall pipe tobacco.
Yeah,
and it reminds me of that a lot. It's kind of surprising. I was expecting, when you say berry, I was expecting like a blueberry kind of fruity kind of thing. Oh, I guess we should taste the beer without the unadulterated beer first. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clunk. Get our Dollar General cups here. It's nice.
It's nice. Fruity, a little caramelly. It's definitely not a stout.
No.
Little bit roasty, but not too much.
Yeah. It's not as roasty as I thought it was going to be, frankly.
No, not from your description. It's not. But it's nice, and it'll be a good base beer for this experiment.
Mm-hmm. It is fruity, and that's obviously it's not coming from the yeast. I don't think because USO5 ferments clean.
Right.
If this were fermented with an English yeast, I might suspect that that's the kind of character that you would get from that.
Right.
But I think it's from that dark chocolate malt.
Right.
Surprisingly, I think there's a fruitiness in there it's good. It's a little too. It's definitely too. It's not a stout. I don't know that I would even call it a porter.
I wouldn't either. It's definitely not lagerish, but the closest thing commercially I can think of is maybe like a Negra Modelo. Maybe what's the darker, the Dos Equis that's dark.
Or maybe
darkish.
the malt character that I get is it's been a while since I've had one, but maybe similar to a 1554 from New Belgium.
Yeah, it's along that line. So yeah, I just don't want our listening public to think we're drinking like a Guinness or something like that because it's not. It's nowhere near that.
No, it's not that roasty.
Yeah,
it's good. I'd drink a pint of that,
sure.
And I did last night to make sure it was ready. So we've got 5 little pipettes, so one for each.
Oh, right. Sure.
Thingy. And talk about how you made the tinctures.
Okay, so in terms of the fruit itself or the spice itself, there's about an ounce or two of the individual. So say there's about an ounce of hawthorn berry that went into a half a cup of vodka, and it's been I don't know if you guys could hear that or not. The
tap, tap, tap.
The tap was tapping on the table. Anyway, I just took the berries, and in the case of the hawthorn berries, the juniper berries, the black pepper, I put them into a little coffee grinder thing. I've got a little electric coffee grinder and blitzed them.
Oh.
Didn't turn them into flour. Didn't break them all the way down like that, but just to open them up, and then put them each into I guess those are pint-sized mason jars. Put my vodka over them, and let them steep for about a week, and then strain them and put them back into the fridge and just waited for today.
So I put
Okay.
let's see, these are, how big are these cups? It doesn't say. The Dollar General store cups. This is what, a couple ounces of beer?
Yeah.
And I put like 2.5 milliliters of the tincture in there.
Yeah, and I should say that, this is not terribly scientific. Other than I tried to use more or less the same amount of fruit, but I didn't have any idea how strong how much flavor any one of these would give off compared to the other. So there wasn't an attempt to try to make them all level.
Right. Some may be stronger than the other.
Some may be stronger. Your mileage may vary, kind of thing. The only one, the hibiscus, I used an entire cup of vodka because the hibiscus were big old leaves. And so I thought, well, that's going to soak up some of the vodka. So a little more tincture there, but okay. Here's a taste.
It definitely made an impact. You can definitely taste it.
Oh, okay. So I think it tastes.
Number one, is it better or worse?
For me, it's a draw. It's neither better or worse.
It's just different.
It's different. I think it does taste. I'm going to go on the side of worse. Ultimately, personally, I've had one sip. I think it tastes a little medicinal.
It's odd.
Yes, it's odd. Yeah. So odd's not a good thing.
Yeah, it's not unpalatable. It's just not something that I think I want in my beer.
Me too. And actually, I was kind of laughing at myself when I was doing this and thinking, I've never heard of any of these flavors in beer. Well, I mean, maybe rose hips and hibiscus. I'm sure people do beers with those.
Certainly heard of hibiscus meads.
Sure. So, but I was thinking, there's probably a reason why you don't see hawthorn berry stouts at the grocery store. But I forged ahead anyway.
Well, it kind of tastes like it smells. It's a little more spicy tasting. There's a little kind of hint of cinnamon in there on my palate that you don't smell necessarily, but it kind of tastes like pipe tobacco.
Yeah, it does. It's a little leather.
Maybe if this were an oaked, like a big oaked beer, big oaked stout, big oaked Russian Imperial Stout, maybe this would accentuate those oaky flavors. But in this beer, it's a little too naked, It's a little too in your face. But as a flavor component, I think, when you think of oaked beers in a nice toasted oak cask or cubes or whatever, I think that this would complement that.
Yes, I agree. So I think it could be part of a more complicated flavor build, but on its own, with the 2 to 2.5 mils, which is what I put in mine too, it's just there's way too much.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'd put in a couple of drops, but then if it's a couple of drops, what's the point?
Yeah,
kind of. So
it is. I do get the medicinal stuff in there now.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's odd. It's medicinal tasting. It's a pass.
Do you remember Whorehound candy? You ever
Sure.
had Whorehound candy?
Oh yeah.
Is it similar? It's been a long time since I've had that. But that kind of licoricey kind of...
Yeah, maybe a little mint, a little licorice, a little cinnamon.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting all those flavors. And all those are good flavors, but in this package...
No.
Maybe not.
It's kind of like first time I ever had Whorehound candy. I was a little kid. And I think we went up to Silver Dollar City, and it's like, oh, candy. Oh, this is old-fashioned candy. And then I got it. I was like, oh, God. This is a trick. Dirty trick.
I remember my father liked Whorehound candy, and so he would keep them around the house. And
because kids wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
There's big news from our friends and sponsors, Ricky and Kelly, from Groenfell and Havoc Meaderies in Vermont. They're now able to bring you Grimfrost meads on Groenfell.com. Grimfrost from Sweden is the largest Viking lifestyle brand in the world, and right now on Groenfell.com you can find 3 delicious Grimfrost meads. There's Varangian Rosehip and Rosehip and Spice Mead, Shield Maiden Oak-Aged Wildflower Honey Mead, and Draki Black Currant Mead, all by Grimfrost. You can build your own case with Grimfrost Mead and get 10% off. And of course, as always, you can find the delicious honey-based beverages from Groenfell and Havoc at Groenfell.com and have them shipped to most states across the country. From light and sessionable honey spritzers to bright and tasty craft meads, to the big and traditional ancient collection. It's all wonderful stuff. And you can also find homebrew recipe versions of their meads, too. That's all at family-owned and operated Groenfell.com. That's Groennfell. Okay, well, I'm neutral on that because I think in certain applications, just a little teeny bit would bring out. So I got the rose hips here.
Okay.
I got the rose hips. I got an ointment, though. That's taken care of it. I'm going to smell it first. It's not as... it doesn't smell rosy to me. Are you sure you just didn't use whiskey instead of vodka?
No, it's vodka. I bought it by the gallon.
So it's...
that's definitely rose hips, but you're right. It does smell a little bit like whiskey. I mean, like maybe not bourbon, but some nondescript.
Yeah, it's darker smelling than I thought. You're going to go first with the... So it's about 2.5 milliliters in the same amount of beer.
Okay.
Which maybe more than you would actually want for an actual application.
that's what I'm wondering.
But that's what we're
trying to bring the flavor out.
I mean, we got more beers. We can always, if we think we like it, we can always add a little more fresh beer in there.
Okay, that's better.
Oh,
that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not. It's still not.
It's not knocking me over.
Yeah, it's still not. I want a lot of that, but
there is an interesting flavor there that I kind of like.
I'm warming up to it.
Yeah, that's not so bad. And I also wondered about all of these, how they might be in other. Of course, this is an exercise in dark beer, but how would it be in a lighter beer? This isn't bad. This isn't great.
I'm surprised that it's not more rosy. To me,
well,
I was expecting rose water.
Oh yeah, I almost bought, instead of rose hips, I almost got the rose petals. But I actually did think rose petals will make it like grandma's bathroom. Yeah. Maybe I won't do that.
Be like an Avon party.
Yeah, exactly. That's not terrible. Again, on its own in this application, not something I'm going to go back to.
It's hard to describe what I'm tasting. It's hard to describe what it's bringing to the party. It's not.
It's more savory than I was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it maybe is it so kind of similar to the base beer that it's not, that it's only kind of just amping up the.
Yeah, could be. Because it is very. I don't really taste anything terribly different, but it tastes more. Well, okay. So
okay. That was kind of a dud.
That's kind of a moving on. I had high hopes for the rose hips.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be, like I say, I thought it was going to be rose water, and I was preparing to be offended, frankly.
Well,
now should we smell what do you got there? You got the gin?
This is
not the gin, the
juniper berry.
Juniper berry. Well, Freudian slip there. Ooh, I can smell it already.
Yeah,
it's a foot away from my nose. Oh, yeah.
I can smell it from over here.
Boy, that's floral. Oh, that smells good. That smells really good. Here, since I've got it, I might as well put a squirt.
Yeah, I can. We're sitting about 4 feet apart, and I can smell. I can smell it.
Yeah, that's the most aromatic, definitely, of all of them so far.
Okay.
And juniper berry is where you get most of your flavor component from gin, right?
Yep.
Can it be a gin without juniper berry?
Yes, it can. Of course, someone correct me, but I believe that it
Not
can.
in Texas.
That's right.
No beans in the chili.
There's no beans in the chili, and no juniper in the gin.
You got to have your juniper in the gin.
Okay, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's a very floral. It's not floral enough to be grandma's bathroom. And it's not ginny enough to be weird.
I kind of like this, and I think that in a true heavier, roastier, dark beer, so a bigger stout, maybe like a cream stout or a milk stout. This might, because there's something about I kind of want a little sweetness. So maybe if you build the beer to have with a little bit of lactose in it, or leave a little sweetness in the beer somehow. This would be very nice.
Yeah. It's not something I would build the entire beer out of, but it's a good flavor component.
It actually reminds me a little bit of rosemary, ever so slightly, and maybe that's just that. I don't know. Rosemary has kind of a mintiness. This has a little mintiness to me, ever so slightly. This is worth playing with. So of the three that we've done, this one's worth coming back to and trying it in a little more in depth. The first two, I'm probably not going to ever do that again.
And this the first two, I thought, is this just cheap cheap vodka that I'm tasting. But no, I'm not. I'm not tasting the similar kind of things as I was in the first two. No, it's good. Yeah,
That's actually not bad. That really is pretty good. So juniper berry, again, about 2 ounces of berries blitzed so that they're opened up, soaked in a half a cup of vodka. That's the 2 mils of that is what we put into 2 ounces of beer.
yeah,
I think it's a little strong.
yeah. If we poured some more fresh beer on top of it, I think
I think it'd be nice.
that would help. Yeah,
Okay, well, we've got
yeah.
1 out of 3.
So far, so good. Hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus. Hibiscus.
If I had my bottom was full of 3s, I'd have. Okay, you want to smell that?
Yeah.
Now, I've had a lot
purple.
of hibiscus tea in my life.
It's purple. It's pretty.
Boy, is it ever. And you don't want to spill that in the kitchen if you want to ever talk to your wife again.
Voice of experience.
That'll be on the disaster show bingo card.
Now we're back to a darker kind of smell.
And now in this one, I went with a whole cup of vodka because the hibiscus leaves were voluminous. And I thought, I wonder if they'll soak it up. So I put a cup of vodka in there, and actually they didn't soak much up at all. I got quite a lot of this. So we shall see.
To make a martini.
I was going to say
Hibiscus martini.
I'm going to use some of this a little later in some food maybe. I don't know what, but I think I've got way too much because I think this is going to be strong, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. I'll do like, what's that? I can't see.
Yeah, because it
It's
actually,
like 1.5 milliliters.
well, it turned the dark beer red.
It has a pinkish hue. Yeah, it looks like somebody put on a snow cone now. Some shave ice.
That's right. That is not bad. I'm going to give that a go.
It's kind of nice and bright.
Yeah, it's bright, it's floral, it's fruity.
It makes me wonder we should keep these in order just in case we want to do more dosing.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. It's floral. I'm just wondering, skipping ahead, I just wonder if, that blended with the juniper berries would be a fun thing.
I'm right there with you. I'd already thought that these two together might be nice, and I'll do that later. There's a second level of testing, but that's actually pretty nice.
It's almost grapey too.
Yeah, it is. It makes me want to use it. It makes me think of using it in a mead, or a light saison, something like that. Might be like a Solera, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it takes it more. This beer tastes more like a wine now to me.
It does. It does. It's very wine-like.
Yeah,
now,
if you were to, I mean, there's a little bit of carbonation, but if you were to be handed this blind and say, "What is this?" It might be like a red wine.
We don't have the ability to do this today because I don't have any, but I'm going to pick up a 6-pack of a big roasty stout. Somebody's, like maybe left hand milk stout, and just go back through a couple of these. I think the first two, I'm just going to chalk that up to
Experience,
but the juniper and this hibiscus, I think, have some possibilities, but I can't. But in both of them, I want the beer to be bigger in flavor.
I still have some of those beers that we helped collaborate with, that big barrel, big Russian Imperial Stout.
I don't.
I'm just wondering.
I get rid of all mine.
I'm just wondering if like a few drops of that leathery. Is it the Hawthorne
berry? Yeah.
I just wonder if a few drops of that in one of those.
It might be
probably be
pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually, the Hawthorne berry and the what was the second one? I've already
Rose hips.
Both of those actually have
my nickname in high school.
They both remind me a little bit of bitters.
Oh,
and in other words, so if you're making a cocktail and you're using bitters, you use 1 or 2 drops, not 200,
Right.
not 2.5 mils. So it might be that we've done them a disservice.
Yeah.
In that the flavor is so powerful.
Right.
So maybe I won't just throw those out.
Hang on to
I'm
them.
gonna hang on
you
to
did
them.
all the work. You just label.
I do still have about a quart of vodka up there to try a drop here.
Freestyle martinis coming up next in the bonus content.
Oh no.
You know our friends Desiree and Dave from HighGravityBrew.com for their awesome Warthog electric brewing gear, but they also have delicious ingredient kits. A lot of them have been thoroughly tested at Pippin's Tap Room at High Gravity in Tulsa. Right now, there are some really fun seasonal kits that you should pick up at HighGravityBrew.com. For example, Ichabod Pumpkin Ale. This spiced beer is inspired by Tulsa Brewing Company's Old Pumpkinhead. The brew pub is no longer in business, but their recipe is a frequent request from Tulsa customers that want to recreate one of their favorite holiday beers. Revelry and Merriment Holiday Eel. Or not eel. That doesn't sound so good. Revelry and Merriment Holiday Ale. A special seasonal kit for 2022. This year's beer is a malty beer. It's an amber beer infused with dried Montmorency cherries, vanilla, maple syrup, and cinnamon. The finished beer has notes of caramel and toasted bread from the malts. And Old St. Nick Ale. This kit is inspired by Avery's Old Jubilation Ale with mocha and toffee flavors and a hint of hazelnut. Check these out along with all the other tasty kits and the Build Your Own Beer page if you want to follow your own recipe. That's at family-owned and operated HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. Okay, so are we ready for number 5?
Oh, yeah. Now, this one I actually have hopes for. I don't even know why, but this is the black peppercorn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
Smell
wow,
that.
It's so dark.
use your schmeller.
So dark. Woof. Woof. I can smell it from here. Wow. I'm going to waft this one.
I might just use that like a meal at a time in a roast, you know?
Oh, that's interesting. And again, I don't know if it's the vodka or not, but there's a fruitiness to it that...
Well, see, I think...
on the aroma, it smells like pepper.
Yeah. I've been playing with peppercorns quite a bit in my cooking lately, and that's what gave me this idea. Actually, when I went to the store, I was actually looking for pink peppercorns.
Oh.
But they didn't have any. They were out. And so I just said, well, I'm not going to spend, $40 an ounce on this fancy white peppercorns. So I thought I'll just do the black peppercorns. Woo! That'll knock.
Hello, Mabel.
That'll knock something in the dirt. And again, I did about 2 mils into about 2 ounces of beer.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I got. And it's brown.
James has a furrowed brow.
Yeah. It's not. It's genetic. I
think I like this, but I'm not sure. It's
not what I expected.
It's not what I expected at all. It's very fruity to me.
Yeah.
The flavor is actually very bright. Mm-hmm. I do get, now that I've had a couple of sips and they've gone away, so on my palate, I am now tasting black pepper. In my, that's the flavor I'm left with is a black pepper. And it's kind of interesting.
I kind of like it.
I kind of like it. It's not
hot.
It's not hot.
There's no heat to it.
Not at all. But I think that the overall flavor of the pepper tincture with the dark beer works quite well. Again, I don't think the proportion is right. I think the proportion is wrong. I wouldn't drink a pint of this.
No.
At the ratio that I have. But I think with work, this flavor could tweak into a beer very nicely.
Yeah.
And of course, it's back to, you use black pepper or grains of paradise, in saisons in some beers. And it's along that same idea or that same flavor profile. So I could see this being used. I could definitely play with this some more.
I'm going to take this black pepper beer as the base, and then is this the juniper berry?
Yes.
So I'm going to take, excuse me.
It's a little more fruity than usual.
Talk about coming back on you. I'm going to put like half a mil of the juniper berry in there to add.
Okay. That's not a bad idea. I'll do that too. That is very nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I could do something with that.
Now I'm going to further, or maybe, let's see, would this one would be the
number one is the hawthorn.
Hibiscus. No, this is my number one.
Oh, okay.
So this is the hibiscus here.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just going to take the previously dosed hibiscus beer and pour some into the one that I've got the
I'm going to follow. I'm going to do what you're doing so we can discuss the same flavors.
Okay. So we're just a little bit.
So now we have a little hibiscus, a little juniper,
and a little black
pepper. And I like that. I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. It's very complex.
Yeah.
Fruity. I think that the hibiscus kind of rounded it off a little bit, rounded the flavor profile off a little bit. It's very fruit forward. That would be nice. That would be nice in a more developed beer.
Yeah. Yeah, I like those flavor combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not bad at all. You know, that's just so weird that we're damning with faint praise in a way.
But it's not awful.
It's not. Yeah, I could go out with her again.
Well, it's not like at this point when you blend everything, it's not like you can pick out those individual notes as easily as you once could.
No, but that's nice. I mean, it the complexity of it is what is enticing about it, and they seem to play well together. That's actually more than nice. Again, none of these, in my opinion, are the same level of wow that coffee would be, or chocolate would be,
right.
or ancho chilies. We know those are great. That's why they get used all the time.
It's not your peanut butter, your chocolate fell in my peanut butter.
No,
it's.
But then again, tweaked up just right. I mean, it takes some work to figure out how the recipe would be. It might be some work to find the right beer. You might say, what's the right beer to pair with this. In all of these, including this mixture, I want the beer to be maltier. I want there to be more malt present,
more roast,
a little chewier beer, and then I think that chewier, roastier, maltier beer would stand up to these actually quite strong flavors. Mm-hmm. And of course, we've dosed them pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tweaking that could be done. We won't do any twerking because nobody needs to see that.
But it's not on camera. No, I think, but like the combination of the strawberries and the jalapenos that we did on that show, that led to, spoiler alert, in a future video episode, that led to a really delicious mead, at least in my opinion.
In mine too. You gave me one bottle to take home, and it lasted about 2 days before I broke it open.
But I think you wouldn't think. Although I did look up afterwards, and somebody has made, of course, a strawberry jalapeno beer, and I can't remember who did it. But there's nothing new under the sun. But who would have thought? That's not a likely flavor combination. So I think you did a really good job at picking out challenging flavors and ones that aren't obvious.
That was my goal, and I honestly, when I was getting these at the store, I just went to our local co-op that has a really good spice, selection, and I thought I just looked at what they had, and I tried to pick things that at least, in my imaginary taste buds, I thought, well, that might work. Other than the hawthorn was a surprise. I didn't think about that. I just saw the container of it, and I thought hawthorn berries. Why not try it? And it was the least successful. It was the one that didn't really work. But again,
But you don't know.
you don't know, and I'm kind of with you that in like that big 13%, or however big that stout was, I forget, but it was big.
Mm-hmm.
It might work very well in there in the right dose.
Little tobacco,
A little tobacco is not a bad thing sometimes.
Surgeon General, notwithstanding.
That's right.
Well, excellent.
This is this to me was a real experiment.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
like, we don't know. Let's find out and be willing to fail. And that's one of the things about, I always like to have a little lesson. To me, the little lesson here is don't be afraid to try something, and it might fail. But what a great way to do that, as we've said in the past.
Right.
This is a great way to explore flavor and not have a big investment.
Very low stakes.
Very low stakes. A little bit of time, a little bit of money, but not much. You
No.
know, I think I spent maybe $10 on this stuff, so it's worth it. And we now have a couple of little flavor profiles that I'm gonna revisit, and I still got lots of tincture left.
Yeah, it
So-
might sneak its way into a mead later.
Yeah, it might
I mean,
very well.
you've got a delicious mead that you made with Capri that you might squirt a little bit of
Absolutely.
these into that and see
Yeah.
and see what you think.
Yeah,
It could be a completely different animal.
absolutely. So, and actually, like you were joking about earlier, but just making a really simple cocktail like a gin martini or maybe I don't know, maybe like a Manhattan or something like that, and adding a drop or two instead of bitters might be really nice. So
Yeah, I can imagine that there would be cocktails that would benefit from, say, some tobacco essence, just a little whiff of tobacco essence.
I do think that one thing that would make all of these more palatable would be sugar.
Oh,
To actually
Yeah.
blend them up into a simple syrup,
yeah,
and maybe
especially for a cocktail.
especially for cocktails. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
It's like if I were to kind of thin these down, maybe with a little more vodka and enough sugar to give me a simple syrup profile, I guess, or recipe, they'd be nice in their own way. So maybe that's for another day.
Yeah. Well, excellent. This has been fun, and we haven't had that much beer
Well, there's a reason for that.
because they weren't as
None of
good.
these aren't great. They have
If there were chocolate and coffee and coconut,
they'd be gone. And so
so the lesson, in order to moderate, make stuff that doesn't taste.
bleep that out. Make stuff that doesn't taste very good.
All right. Well,
All right.
excellent. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome. Well, I have a couple of interesting shows coming for us.
Oh,
which I'll
yeah.
preview.
Oh, okay.
So I've got an elderberry mead. Elderberry.
Elder Mary.
Elderberry. Well, she's in the spare room. We don't let her out very often. No, I've got an elderberry mead. A friend of mine gave me 2 gallons of elderberries. From Arkansas. I don't know that he grows them so much as he's a big gardener. And I think they had an elderberry bush or two, and they protected it so the birds didn't get the berries. And he picked them, and he said, "I don't have time or even the inclination to do anything with these, but I thought you might." And so I whipped up a 5-gallon batch of mead, which has just finished primary fermentation.
Ooh.
And
So this winter.
so it's for winter. Yeah, it's a few months away. It just finished fermentation. I had 9 pounds of honey in a 5-gallon batch, 2 gallons of elderberry in the primary. I just removed the berries this morning. Of course, it's still very yeasty and cloudy. It's definitely not done, but it is fully fermented. It's down to below 1. It's like a 0.998. So that's around a 10.5% or so. Use QA23 wine yeast.
As per suggestion from Ricky the Mead Maker.
Yep. And I had kept a few packets of that from my brew store ownership days, and I thought, well, I'm gonna use that wine yeast. And then I've also got another extract beer to talk about when that's ready, and it's a brown ale, again utilizing some of those rated Breese malts that we got at HomebrewCon, and I whipped that up. But the interesting thing about this beer is that I used some liquid oak product. It's a commercial product, and I won't plug the company.
Right.
But it's a little oak tincture in essence, and
That's something that'd be fun to play with, too.
yeah, it would. And so I just went ahead and dosed the beer as per their instructions. I went ahead and did it in the primary because I knew I was going to be lazy, and I just did it. So it'll be fun to see how that is, and once again to kind of go back and revisit the ease and breeze of brewing with extracts, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
And Eben from Imperial says he's going to send us some bubbles so that we can so that we can make some ciders.
Yeah.
Eventually. So yeah, lots of fun stuff coming down.
Lots
the
of
line.
fun stuff coming.
We've got meads coming from Tim Lieber.
Wow.
We've got beers coming from Adam up at Twin Span.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff coming down the pike. I made a list the other day of stuff that shows. Somebody asked me, what do you got coming down the line? And I made a list, and it's like, wow, that's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then you and I are going to go. Well, we will have already been to the Tulsa Craft Beer Invitational.
That's going to be really fun.
By the time
There's going to be great beers. I'm looking forward to hanging out with our pals Dave and Desiree, drinking some great beers from their brewery, as well as the folks that are at the Invitational.
Yeah.
And
I've been seeing the beers. Desiree's been posting, some of the special beers that are coming down there. So anyway, it's kind of it's by the time you hear this, it'll be in the past, but it's in the future for us, so we can still be excited.
Well, what's exciting is that when we started this whole venture, when you started it, and then I joined you, we thought there'd be about 12 to 15 episodes, and that'd be it. We'd say everything there was to say about beer.
And now we're like at 812. So,
wow.
Oof. All right. Enough waxing nostalgically.
I guess I've had just enough beer to be poetic.
Or to think you are.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, James.
Well, thanks again to Steve. That was a fun tasting. And in answer to the question, have we met a beer that we didn't like? Well, yes. We generally don't talk about those, but it's always fun to try different things. You never know. You might accidentally find a favorite. Boy, I can't talk this week. I swear I've only had coffee. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.